Welcome to the Gentleman's Talk, people. How the devil are we? Let me crank this down and set the mood. This tune's amazing. This is my meditation hour. I have finished my meditation hour listening to some music like this. Again, it's just whatever takes your fancy. I've just been having some nice, delicate dance in the background, just whilst I get myself in the mood, get myself in the zone, people. Get myself in the zone to deliver for you. I think that's the right level. I like a background noise, but I've got to get it just right. It's a delicate little operation, this. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a delicate little operation. So, how the devil are you? How are we? How have you been? How have you been coping? What have you been up to? Have you been reflecting on what you've been up to? Have you been pursuing happiness as much as you can? Have you been giving yourself the enthusiasm? Have you been beating that drum? Not your penis, gents. Leave it alone. It's raw. Anyway, I have got an absolute doozy of you for you. Why have I not been here for Sunday? So you weren't here yesterday, James. Where were you? Well, like I said to you, on my last podcast, I told you I was taking some much-needed rest and recuperation. I was taking some time out, so I did that. And by did that, I'm doing it. And I'm on that now. So, excuse me, I've just had a sip of gin because I'm on holiday. I'm on my Holly Bobs. See? That's a fucking gin-filled glass with a bit of ice. Just to set myself up for my podcast. I've been reflecting. I've been recuperating. I started my journey, shall we say, of reflection, my reflection journey. I started that last Thursday. I finished Wednesday. I literally last week had one of those weeks where I just kind of did as minimal as possible, just to kind of wind myself down. Didn't really get involved in too much. Just went, I don't want any actions on myself from work. I just want to embed myself into the routine of the rest and recuperation that I really, really needed and deserved. I think I deserved it. I'm going to tell myself I deserved it because I've done a fucking lot of hard work recently. And I just kind of went, right, now's the time. This is what you need. Reset. Get that reset in. So I spent 2 or 3 days winding down. Absolutely. And then Bosh, Thursday came along, smashed it out of the bag, started my journey for the reflection and the recuperation and did it right. Used all the tips and tricks that I've been talking about for so long and incorporated them into my everyday for the next week and a half. Again, I talk about this learned habit all the time and I harp on about it because it needs to happen. And I'd lost my way. And sometimes we do lose our way. Absolutely. There's no shame in losing your way. Sometimes we get consumed and, we start doing the wrong things. We start eating unhealthily. We don't exercise as much as we should. We don't get out and about. We're not putting everything into our family, relationships and friendships. It just happens. Sometimes we get consumed. Men are an absolute nightmare for this because they just absolutely pound themselves into the ground by concentrating on work, whatever it may be, just absolutely. But they forget all of the things that actually make us happy have been shoved aside, they've been pushed aside, and we don't give ourselves the credibility or the time that we need to make things right. So I acknowledged that because I was like, right, I'm in work, I'm really angry, I'm bitter, I'm getting into confrontation with a lot of people, I'm just not enjoying the process of life. And, rightly so, this is going to feed into so much more as I talk to you. But this is why sometimes it's just life, gents. That's the name of today's title is Sometimes It's Just Life, Gents. Because that is, and sometimes it is, but you've got to you've got to be held to account. I've said this before. You've got to do your due diligence. You've got to look at yourself and go, I think I need a break. Nobody in any way in your life is going to tell you need a break. Actually, that's a lie. That's an outward lie because I have had people, and I have had a very good friend of mine at work who she said to me, she's been working alongside me for like 6 or 7 months, and she said, James, I've seen you change. She works with me day in, day out, and she was like, James, Christ, you need a break, mate. You have been under the cosh for the last 6 or 7 weeks, and I can see the change in your attitude. I can see the change in your personality. Take some time out. And I listened to her. I listened to my own body. I listened to my own mind. I was putting weight on, which I still am. I'm fucking literally banged on about a stone. And that's just unhealthy eating, drinking alcohol, and not really concentrating on my health and well-being. So how do I expect to be in a positive place? How do I expect to be healthy in my mind and my body if I'm not feeding myself all of the healthiness that I need, all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the vitamin D from the sun, or whatever it may be? If I'm not doing what I should be doing, then of course I'm going to collapse. Of course I'm going to feel ill all the time. Of course I'm going to feel like crap. Of course I'm going to want to lie in bed 24/7. Because I'm not doing what I should be doing, what my body needs, what the body tells you need. And this is science that's telling us this. It's health and well-being is what we need. So I did. I absolutely broke into it and went, do you know what? This is fucking time. This is the first time. And I think it's the first time because I'm in a stressful job. I'm in a job that is a little bit more demanding than I've ever had before. But it's more demanding in the sense that previous jobs I've had demands from like one person, one key stakeholder, shall we say. If you've been in corporation, you'll understand what that means. If you haven't been, you'll be like me before I did know, because I haven't got a fucking clue what a stakeholder was. I thought it was somebody bringing a fucking steak to me, put it on the plate. He's a key guy. That's not what it means. So you get battered from a lot of angles, and I'm understanding this now in this new corporation I work for. You get demands from everywhere and places that you wouldn't expect. And you can imagine you've got loads of people asking you questions. You need to take the time out to do that. And I'm not really in a high pressure environment like some men are. And again, I'm saying men because this is the gentleman's talk, but I understand this is a broader, wider spectrum. And there is a lot of women out there that feel the same. I can't offer advice from a woman's perspective because I just don't know. Christ, tell me a man that does know how a woman works. I don't know. So, but they do. They manage it better because they look after their health and well-being. They shut down. They say no. Men don't say no. It's like, fucking yes, let's go. Let's fucking do this, mate. So I did myself the due diligence I needed, and I took the time out. And I did that in the proper way. I wound down the right way. I didn't engage in too much on the Monday, the Tuesday, the Wednesday. Just did what I needed to do to get by. Didn't go above and beyond for those 3 days because I was like, no, I just need to make sure that I don't give myself anything that's ultimately going to... I mean, you can hear me in my voice. I'm fucking knackered talking. That's how unfit I am at the moment. I actually went out for my first... Before I digress into my... I'm going to digress a little bit. I actually just did a 45-minute walk. Went out with my wife and the dog and went out for a fucking real long walk. And do you know what? I feel amazing for it. I really, really do. And I'm going to incorporate that into my every daily routine. I was talking to my missus and we were talking about life in general. The dog was being a complete and utter bellend as he always is, but he's funny. And I feel good. I felt good for it. Yes, I'm coming back and having a gin. So, you've literally undone all your hard work, James. But that's because I wanted to relax for the podcast. Yes, that's an excuse. And a shit excuse at that. But I'm on my hollybobs. But at the same time, I'm not doing it as much as... It's a light one. Okay, it's a light one. So, yeah, it's... So I've kind of like tried to incorporate the right things. So I did that. I broke it down, had a nice little time. And then I just... Do you know what I did on Thursday? Clicked the fingers. I started the process. That was getting up in the morning. That was going for a walk with the dog. That was eating healthy, having a breakfast shake, not having fucking, full English breakfast and all that sort of stuff, or unhealthy amounts of bread and everything else. I've gone, right, I need to cut out what I'm doing because I've not been happy. And because I've not been happy, I've been overeating. I've been having... I've been having like toast at like fucking 10, 11 o'clock at night with Marmite, lashings of Marmite, pissing out with Marmite and butter everywhere. It sounds delightful, but it's put weight on, which has made me, I can feel that unhealthy route again. So I've had to take that active decision. And I've done that because I need to, just like you need to if you acknowledge that. And again, I will caveat that with the fact that you won't always be told. Someone isn't going to come and tap you on the shoulder and say, James, Dave, Bob, Fred, whatever your fucking name is, you need a break. They're not going to tell you that. They're just going to complain when you're a complete obnoxious prick. That's the problem. They'll go, you're fucking being a knob. Why are you being like this? And they expect you to do what you do as an adult. And like, take time off then, mate. And you're like, yeah, well, I don't feel like I can. I've got to keep going. I've got to keep doing this. I've got to keep performing. And no, you don't. Because all you've done, and all I've done for the last fucking 3 or 4 weeks, whilst I've had this build-up of negativity, is I've shut my friends away. I've pissed and moaned about fucking life. I've had confrontations with people at work. And I've not done what I deserve, what I should be doing. So I've actually undone probably 6 months worth of fucking hard work in the space of 2 or 3 weeks. And you only get remembered from the fucking negatives. People will only remember the negative. They won't remember the nice James. They'll just remember that James was a fucking dick a couple of weeks ago. They won't remember that I helped them or did whatever I did, previously. So it's kind of like, that's where you've got to be an adult. You've got to recognise if you're different. Especially where you come in, you'll have friends. Maybe you're a friend that's noticed this. James, you've disengaged from me recently. Is everything okay? Do you know what? I thought it was, but no, now you mention it, it really isn't. And then you go into it and you go, okay, I do need a bit of a break. Sometimes that is about taking a bit of time for yourself as well. And that's what I've done this week. I've broken into just kind of taking time, resting, recuperating, getting back into some sort of fitness regime, some sort of exercise routine that I need to do. Not overpowering, overbearing, but just, nice leisurely walks, getting back amongst nature. And it only took a couple of months, and that is how far that degraded. It was a steady decline, but it degraded to the point where that last fucking week, I was fucking projectile vomiting. I could have shit through the eye of a fucking needle. I was so ill. It was unbelievable. The lack of sleep, and I just kept going. And I was like, even when I was ill, and I said this on my podcast, even when I was ill, I was still at work. And people were like, what are you doing here? I was like, well, I don't want to go back to a hotel and just fucking lie in a hotel bed. They were like, but mate, it's better than being at work. And I was like, no, because this is just from stress. I know it's not. I don't have a sickness bug because I can still eat. I can still do the things, I still had the thought process of eating. Although when I did eat, it came back up. So I don't really know on that one. It's a bit of a delicate one. But I could see the signs and symptoms. I was getting stress headaches. I was getting tiredness. I wasn't sleeping properly. I just wasn't in a good place. I was very angry. I was very bitter. And everything was a problem. And I didn't want to help anybody. I didn't want anybody to help me. I just completely and utterly shut down. So I went, right, here we go. Now's the time to shine, Jimbo. Hold on while I move this away from my mic because it's vibrating. It's annoying me. That's my little muffler. I've got a muffler on there. If you're American, it's not an exhaust on my my thing, okay? And it's not an adjective if you're British for a pair of panties. It's a little tiny guard that goes on my fucking microphone. Muffler. So yeah, I did. I gave myself. And do you know what? I've had a tremendous weekend, and it's led into, and I'm going to tell you a little story actually, because I don't often dream, or I do dream. Everyone dreams, but I don't remember my dreams because I'm normally so exhausted mentally that, and I've also, I often around about 11, 12 o'clock at night, I'm still writing stuff down in my journal or in my notes app on my Kindle. I'm still Kindle on my iPad. I'm still writing down. I've got this note thing, and I write down thoughts to try and get them off my head. I'm like, just got to write this down. If you read my notes, you'd be like, fucking hell, mate, this guy needs to be put in a fucking asylum because they're everywhere. But it's just notes off my head. I'm emailing myself. I'm just like, that's how batshit crazy I go. I haven't done any of that because I shut my laptop on fucking on Wednesday night, and I've just gone, fuck the world. I'm going to take this time. And I'm going to... Oh, that's X. It's my DJ. Spotify DJ I was talking about, X. He's on there. He's delivering me an ensemble of fucking music. I love it. And... what's he playing? No idea, but I love it. But yeah, so anyway, that's a digression. But it puts you into a really good place. So I shut that laptop, and I started reflecting. I started getting out with the dog. I started getting a little bit more healthier. I switched alcohol for water. I didn't do that during the day, by the way. But in the evenings, I'd be sat there and I'd be like, oh, I'm going to have a pint of water. Not a pint of gin. And I basically just did all that. And then I've slowly, over the last couple of 3 days, seen a change. And a good change, a positive change, to the point where, and this is where this little story comes in. I dreamt, and it was I had 2 dreams, actually, that I absolutely remember to this day. I'm going to tell you these fucked up dreams I had. Now, like I say, I never remember my dreams. It's really, really rare. I think I've remembered one dream that I told my mate Kieran the other day, the other month, and I was like, that was a batshit crazy fucking dream. And I told him about it, and he was like, fucking wow. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to repeat it because I can't really remember much about it. But this one's fresh in the memory. This was last night. So I woke up about 4 o'clock in the morning in a bit of a sweat. I had a nightmare. Now, that wasn't a dream. Obviously, that's a nightmare. Still can be construed as a fucking part of a dream. But it was a bit messed up, and I don't really know. Maybe this is something, if you hear this part, you may be like, fucking hell, this is telling a story. But there's 2 different dreams I had. One when I woke up at 3 o'clock, and I was like, fucking hell, that was a bit weird. And the way it ends, you'll understand. So I went for a piss because I'd woken up because this dream had fucking woken me up. This nightmare had woken me up. And then I went back to bed. Mrs. goes to me like, is everything all right? You never get up. And I was like, I'd still have a bit of a nightmare, I think. And she just fucking casually rubbed my shoulder and was like, oh, okay. It was like, what do you do? What do you do when a man has a fucking nightmare? Because it's probably quite rare that you hear a man complain about a nightmare. And I was like, yeah, it's all right, don't worry about it. So I went back to sleep. And then the second one was a dream. So I'm going to break into it. So I went to this dream started, and I can only remember like bits of it. But it started off that I was walking around and I was reflecting on things, and I went into this church, and this is a place I've never been because I have been, but I don't go really, religiously, in no pun intended. And I walked in and I saw this Pope, and this Pope was a big guy. He's a fucking big guy, and I was like, okay, mate. So I walked up to him, and as I walked up to him, his face started to change, and he said, stop. And I went, oh, okay. So I stopped, and he went, stop there. There's something weird's going on here. There's something trying to take over me when you come in. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went back out, and I was like, fucking hell, that was a bit weird. So I went back out to the back out to the front, and I remember walking around, and I was potting around in the garden. It's a bit like what I do in the evenings here in my house. And then I walked back in and I was like, mate, this doesn't sit right with me. What do you mean something's changing? I can see something in your face. And he went, something is trying to fucking take over me. And this is true. I'm not lying to you. This is not fucking made up. It's genuinely, this is the nightmare I had. And he goes, something's trying to take over me. And it was almost like his face was changing. And I was like, what is it? He said, something evil is trying to get hold of you. And I was like, oh, okay. And I don't remember what my bit was, but I just remember hearing his vocals. So I walked back out again, and then I came back in, and he was training. He was in this makes me fucking laugh. He was in the back kitchen area, and he was pressing weights in the air. And I looked at him. I went, "What are you fucking doing, buddy?" And he went, "I'm fucking training." I was like, so what for? He was like, I'm training for whatever is coming for you. This is quite serious. This is a proper nightmare, but it's making me laugh now. He was like, I'm training. I was like, what for? He's like, because something's trying to fucking get you, mate, and you're in this area, so if you don't fuck off, I got to train to beat it. And then I was like, oh, okay. So and you imagine I've got this big fucking guy, Pope, with this face that was changing, and his eyes were getting red. And he was saying, something's trying to get hold of you, James. And I was like, oh, okay, mate. So I fucking went and walked out. And then when I came back in for the 4th time, because obviously this is the confusion bit from my brain. I was like, obviously I wanted to keep fucking challenging this. I walked in, and then literally this guy, and this is the bit where I woke up. This guy looked at me, and I could see his face changing. It was almost like the evil had fucking like gone, you're pushing your fucking boundaries, mate. I'm going to show you. And I walked in, and then he threw down the fucking weight on the floor, and he just went, I'm gonna fucking get you. And then in my dream, his face changed, and this fucking this entity thing came flying towards me, And it was something out of one of the horror movies, you know, where you sort of see like a face just appear in the screen. It was like that. And I went, fuck. And then I woke up. And I was obviously sweating, and I was like, fuck, you know, I was a bit batshit crazy, wasn't it? That was a bit of a fucking doozy. Went for a piss, and then came back. And then I was like, that's when the missus said to me, you know, are you okay, mate? I was like, yeah, I'm all right. So I just had a bit of a nightmare. She said, fucking hell. She went, all right. I said, well, you know me, I don't know what to fucking say. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm going to go back to sleep. I'm fucking tired. So I went back to sleep. And then the next, no. There was a little bit in there. So I said to I said, have a night. She goes, yeah, you were shouting. And I said, what was the shouting? And she went, I couldn't make out what you were shouting. It was just, you were just making words. I was like, fucking hell, am I possessed? Am I the evil one? That was the little bit that got me. She said, I didn't really hear. You were just mumbling and like, you were sort of like wrestling a bit. And I was like, okay, ignore that shit. Went back to sleep. And then my next fucking dream, so I woke up again later on. And my next dream when I woke up was, I'd gone to the, this is a bit of a weird one really. And there's going to be, I will caveat this, there's going to be an element of drugs in this, but it's not drugs that you need to worry about, okay? But it's just what happened, and but I don't know whether it was like a simply like a something to undo from the negatives of the negative spirit. So I went in and I was like, all of a sudden I appeared in this RAF base. Now I'm ex-RAF, as you know, ex-veteran. Oh, I'm a veteran, so ex-military. And I walked in, and the base was one that was local to me, and they were doing go-karting. And I was like, oh, okay. So I remember going into my job and going, well, I want to do a bit of go-karting. That fucking sounds amazing. And all of my friends are in this little group. We went go-karting. It was a professional go-karting fucking like setup. We walked into this room and we were getting this fucking brief on what we shouldn't do and what we should do, and basically just have fun. But it was kind of like a complete opposite to the nightmare, obviously. And I remember sitting in there, and I remember we were going out onto the flight pan to get a minibus, to get a coach. Sorry, not a minibus, a coach to the hangar where this karting ring was. While we were on the flight pan, I really no idea, but I remember there was in my brain there was like helicopters and stuff going off in the background, and I was like, fucking hell, this is a bit crazy. And it was almost like it was a bit unusual for me, even though it's not. And jumped on the coach, but as we were walking on the pan, one of my friends said, reach into my pocket. And I went, why? He said, reach into my pocket. I've got something that'll fucking sort you out. And I went, well, sort me out with what? He goes, something to cheer you out. And he pulled out a bag of weed. I was like, I went, I can't have that, mate. I'm on an RAF fucking base. He was like, you need to put it in your pocket. Don't worry, mate. It's in a smell-proof bag. And I was like, oh, it is. It's smell-proof. And then I put it in my pocket. And then I remembered that I had anxiety then. And I remember the anxiety because I'm walking around with this and I'm going into the karting thing. And then the next thing I know, I put this helmet on. I got into this fucking car. And then my dream stopped. That was it. So I never got to fucking try and smoke it and see what happened there. And I never got to enjoy the karting ring. I just woke up and it was like 9 o'clock in the morning. I was like, fucking hell, James, you've been for a roller coaster of a fucking ride here. So, but that just goes to show. And I don't know whether this is to do with like the reflection side of things. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think it's just, maybe it's because my mind hasn't been consumed with everyday life. And I've been relaxed, and all my family have acknowledged I just need this little bit of time just to take some time out and sort of kind of manage my mental health, you know. And everybody in the last 3 or 4 days has seen a change in me already. They've just gone, you just seem a little bit more relaxed. And I go, yeah, I am. I feel a little bit better. Excuse me. And I've been more interested in cooking good food. So I've been making... I've got this Ninja, and there is others available, but I've got this Ninja wood smoker, and it's an absolute fucking game changer for me. I made smoked steaks. I've made smoked roast beef. I've made, and I'm not talking about, anything rude there, but I've had a roast beef joint that I've marinated and injected with Coca-Cola to marinate and break down all the fibers and the fats inside, so it's super soft. And then tonight I made fucking chicken kebabs. I'm really enjoying the healthy food side of things. And I think that's just because I'm resetting, because I'm not consumed by a laptop and a work environment. I've gone, there's more to life, mate. There is so much more to life. I've been giving more to my kids. I've been giving more to my fucking wife. I've been giving more to my but just mean like time. Just been giving more time to them. sitting with them, not stressing out and trying to be completely away from noise. And that's just in a matter of days of doing the right thing. I've seen an instant change to the point where, all right, they're batshit crazy dreams, but to dream is almost like a commodity for me. It's almost like it's like I don't know. It's just something it's nice to have. I don't know. It's like a movie, isn't it? You wake up, you feel like you've watched a movie. Sometimes if it's a bad movie, but I do like horror movies, so I suppose I didn't look at it too negatively. Probably would have scared a few fucking people, but it's nice to wake up and go, oh, that was a bit crazy, like a little movie in my brain. Whereas normally I go to sleep, I fucking mentally and physically exhausted, and I just fucking go bosh, and I just go to sleep. The next thing I know, I wake up and everything just feels like Groundhog Day, because there's no change, because it is literally shut your eyes, go to fucking sleep, wake up, do the same thing, rinse and repeat, eat, chill out for a couple of hours, go to sleep, fucking get nothing out your sleep, wake up, and just in it's Groundhog Day if you don't do the right things. And that's what I've done, and I've seen this change. It's like just little incorporations. Like tonight, I was going out for a walk, and Miss says, I was only going to go for a 10-minute walk, and Miss, do you want me to come with you? I was like, yeah, come on. And we ended up doing a 45-minute walk, and it was absolutely fucking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Although the weather is fucking shit at the moment in the UK for July, which is really, really depressing me, because I like to get out as much as I can. But yeah, that's just, it's I don't know, it's really rewarding when you make an effort. But just like I say, breaks into a little bit of things, and I've been viewing a few things. A few things I want to tell you. In fact, this guy I follow, and I think this was resonated me quite heavily because, and I think I need to pass this on because I think it's really important to acknowledge this, that if, for instance, you know, you're in a situation where you're negative and life's a bit shit, and you're depressed, you're anxiety, whatever it may be. If you're not doing the right things, and this feeds into where I got to. If you are drinking, if you are doing drugs, if you're not exercising, then how do you expect to be in a good place if you're not doing the basics, the minimum? If you're abusing yourself with chemicals, drugs, whatever it may be, and absolutely abusing alcohol, and you're not exercising, those are the three things. If you do those two things, it's absolutely horrendous. You'll put on weight, you'll never get a proper night's sleep, you'll never get into your REM sleep. You will literally completely and utterly compound yourself. And if you're not doing a little bit of something exercise, you're not getting out and about, you're not socialising. Because exercise is a broad spectrum in itself. It can be a walk. It can be a run. It can be down the gym. But all of them incorporate. If you're going for a walk outside or a run outside, what are you doing? You're amongst nature. You're getting out and about. So you're feeling, you're getting your heart rate going up. You're naturally losing a bit of weight. Put some music on. Put an audiobook on. Get out and about. Half an hour a day is fuck all. You can sit there for fucking half an hour and scroll TikTok, Facebook Reels, Instagram, whatever it may be. You can sit there for half an hour, guaranteed, no problems. No problems at all. It's the same as when they say to you, you can't down a pint of water, but if I put a pint in front of you of alcohol, you'll down that fucker for a laugh. And it really is. But what I'm saying is, if you can't give yourself that half an hour to do the right thing, and if you can't remove alcohol and drugs from you from a period of time, what do you expect to happen? You're going to be in a shit place. You are going to be continuously ill. You are going to continuously be negative because you're not feeding yourself any positivity at all. You're not giving your body what it needs. You're not feeding. And I literally spoke to my daughter. She said that, I've got really bad, this is the life of being a dad. She said, Dad, I've got fucking really bad constipation. My skin's fucking really poor, breaking out and stuff like that. And she's 17. So, she's obviously conscious about this. And I said, well, what are you doing? Are you drinking enough water? Well, I'm trying. Well, how much are you having? Well, I have a glass in the morning, and I try to have a glass or two during the day. And that's not enough. What food are you eating? And you could see her food consumption was not positive food consumption. She was going around a friend's house, and because she's just started earning a little bit of money, she's like, oh, I'm getting takeaways and stuff. That's fine. I'm not stopping you from getting takeaways. But just acknowledge that if you get a takeaway, you're going to be constipated because it's shit food. It's not good quality fibre. There's loads of fucking fats and all sorts of stuff in there, so it's going to bung you up. Your skin is going to be awful because you're not cleansing your skin. So it's the basics. It's the absolute basics that we need to get back to sometimes. Sometimes you need to get back to basics. Sometimes you need to give yourself that break that you need. And we don't do it enough. We are, and I genuinely mean we are all, at some point, unless you're an absolute fucking junkie of, of exercise or whatever, or a health junkie. But again, you look at those foodies and you look at those fitness freaks. Sometimes they've been through the railroads. They've been to the point where they looked at the south and they're obese, or they're getting obese. In fact, I remember there was a guy, a sergeant of mine, and he just hit his 40s, and he had a bit of a midriff. He was putting on a bit of weight because our metabolism, naturally slows down at a certain age, and he'd been like that for a few. He'd been going down the mess, the sergeant's mess, and all that sort of stuff in the military. We were, and he was eating, big, he was getting, because it was cheap food basically, but good quality food, but cheap. But it wasn't. When I say good quality, it was good quality bad food, if you like. So he was having like full English breakfasts nearly every day, and he was like, because it was easy, consumable. It's just the way it works. It was cheap alcohol, so he was having a drink in the evening. He was eating biscuits during the day, and he was sat behind a desk because he was now a manager, not a shop floor worker. So he was taking away the natural elements of exercise that he was getting through work. And that's pretty much what I'm like now. I'm to the point where I drink alcohol, I don't eat good quality food, and I'm sat behind a desk 24/7, it feels like, because I'm not out and about socialising. I'm not out and about doing work on the floor because I'm becoming to the manager's aspect. So now I'm managing people. So people do the exercise bit, or the work bit, and I do the sit behind the desk and the boring paperwork and documentation side of things. What does that do? Well, everything slows the fuck down because it doesn't need to. Your only exercise is walking from, especially now I'm a work from home guy, I go from fucking bed to my fucking computer. So I need to make an active, conscious effort to make a difference to myself. Otherwise, I will put on weight, and I will feel like shit, and I will look like shit because I won't be fucking feeling confident. And that's what I've done. I've got to the point where there's so much negativity around me. Yes, I'm performing in work, but I'm not performing successfully because I'm not doing the right things. So if you are in that category where, you're feeding yourself drink and drugs all week, and you're not exercising, then you can't say to yourself that you're making an effort. You can't expect yourself to be in a good state of mind if that's your routine. Everything's okay in moderation to a degree. I mean, I would never recommend fucking hard drugs or anything like that. That's a no-brainer. But what I am saying is, you've got to do the right things to make sure that you're getting the best out of life. If you can't say you're doing those and you're not getting regular exercise, you're not eating healthy, you're not drinking plenty of water, you're not engaging socially to stimulate your mind, if you're not doing those things, then you don't expect to be happy. Once you start doing those things, if you're still unhappy, then seek medical attention, seek medical help. And if there is something underlying, they can deal with it. You can deal with it because you'll understand it. But you can't say to yourself you're depressed, you're stressed, your anxiety is through the fucking roof if you're not doing the right things along the way. If you're not getting out and exercising, you're not eating healthy, you're not sticking to a routine of shutting off. I mean, how many of us sit there and eat after fucking 6, 7 o'clock at night? How many of us? Loads of us. Well, if you're eating after that time, your body's not going to you're not going to be able to process that. And when you go to sleep, your body's still going to be trying to metabolize that food. But you're shutting down when your body should be completely in a relaxed state of mind. It's not, because you fed it. So it's like, fuck, I need to process this. So what does it do? It processes it quickly and it just stores it as fat. It's like, fuck, we're just going to chuck it here, mate. We ain't got time for that. And then if you keep doing that, you're going to end up looking like you're you're not healthy. You're not going to feel healthy. You're not going to look healthy. Why? Because you're not doing the right things. You need to get yourself into a strict routine, shutting off at a certain time. Save your indulgences for moderation. Get to the weekend and give yourself that celebratory piece. I've had a really good fucking week. I've done 5 days of exercise. I've drank plenty of water. I feel cleansed. I've I've eaten healthy. That was an amalgamation of 2 words there. Eaten healthy. There you go. It's a new word. Stick that in the Oxford Dictionary. And if you're not doing that, then don't expect the positives to hit you in life. Expect things like diabetes, liver failure, kidney damage. All those things are going to happen if you're not doing the right things. Yes, by all means, have a fucking week off. But that's what we do. We get into a routine where we work healthy, we live healthy, we celebrate the weekends because it's our relaxed period. We need to have that. We can't live in a state of complete unhappy. You would end up, I think, being unhappy again, most of us, if you didn't have the odd indulgence. But work up to a celebratory point of having a nice indulgence on a Friday or a Saturday. I think I had a friend of mine actually used to call it Fatterday. Not Saturday, it was Fatterday. So he used to, from Monday to Friday, and so Sunday to Friday, I was gonna do a working week there. From Sunday to Friday, he would eat healthy, exercise, drink plenty of water, and then Fatterday, as he called it, he would have a glass, bottle of wine. He would have a movie. He'd have chocolate. He'd have crisps. He'd have a nice big dinner, and he enjoyed it because he had it in the moderation. But what he did do was he looked healthy. He felt healthy, and I genuinely mean when I saw him, I was gobsmacked. I was like, "Fucking, how have you been doing, mate?" He went, "Nothing." I said, "I literally just been cutting out the shit throughout the week, and I've just been doing a little bit of exercise. I feel more positive. I feel happier. There's not as much weight on me, so naturally I'm sleeping better." And I was like, "Oh, right." And he said, and then I get to Fatterday, he said, and I went, "Do you mean Saturday?" He went, "No, Fatterday, mate." And then gave me a wink, and I went, "Oh, that's genius." And he said, yeah, and some people will say that's a bit of a negative way of looking. You shouldn't do that. Shouldn't save to indulge in 1 day a week. Well, it worked for him, and it's worked for a lot of people that I know that do that. So then, kudos to them. So yeah, it's getting into that routine, and I think it's really important to acknowledge that. And I've seen the changes in how I felt from last week on Wednesday, where I was desperate to take time off. I was desperate. I was like, "Fuck this shit." I was applying for jobs because I thought that's what the problem was. I was like, fuck everybody, fuck this. That's my mindset. All because I didn't take off a week a month ago and go, "I need a break between all this. This is getting a bit heavy. Let me take a week off just to reset, just shut down, get back into a routine of eating healthy." And that's the important bit. It's just that reset in life that you need. And like I said, at the moment, sometimes it's just life. And life is hard. I mean, genuinely, it is hard. One of the conversation points for me with my missus were, I can't wait for the kids to get to the point where they're earning money, so that they don't, because there's a little period in life when you have children, where the initial stages of having a child, very expensive. First fucking 5 years, because they're like constantly growing, needing all the, nappies and all the other fucking things that are just through the fucking roof. And then you get a little bit of a lull where they don't grow as quickly and it's not as expensive, and you do get a little bit of help from other people. And then they get to a point where they're almost teenagers, where it's like, mate, you just fucking got to crack on. It's just almost, you're hung out to dry. You're like, fuck. It's like they hit 13 and you're like, fucking hell. But that's another really demanding stage. And I've got a 17 and 16-year-old that are just, and it's even worse because they want makeup, cleansers for their fucking face, and toners, and I don't know, fucking, I'm trying to think of the shit that they say to me. They just send me links and they go, "Can you get this?" And I'm like, that's like $6.99, mate. And what they don't realise is, if one of my children, out of my 3 daughters, wants something for $6.99, the other person will go, "Where'd you get that from?" "I got that from Dad." And then they'll find out what it is, because they're all fucking computer geniuses nowadays. And they'll go, "Well, that's $6.99. They'll come up to me and they'll go, "Dad, can I have this?" And I'll go, "Oh, no, don't be silly. I ain't got money for that. But you had money for this one." And I'll go, yeah. Now, do I be an arsehole dad and go, "Well, she needed that." And she's going, "Well, okay. I don't need the sweets, but what I do need is fucking this and this for the price of $6.99. So $6.99 doesn't turn into $6.99. It turns into what? £7.14.21, £20.97. That's what it turns into, and this is what I tried to explain to them. That £20.97, Jimbo didn't fucking account for that at the start of the month, that extra £20.97. But that doesn't happen once. That happened 5 times through the fucking month. And then they'll come up to you and go, oh, Dad, I need fucking panty liners or whatever, fucking tampon. I'm like, okay. And they're through the fucking roof. So you get curveballs all the time. But once they're all earning their money, I've said, once you're earning money, you pay. Now a couple of them are earning money. And I go, well, you've got to buy the essentials for yourself now. You know, you're earning a bit of money. You've got to buy the essentials that you need. You're earning pennies now. Spend that money on them. So it's a constant negativity. And I was saying to my missus, I can't fucking wait for them to be earning a good amount of money, so it's not a burden on us, and our money is ours again, you know. And I don't say that in a negative sense, because my children are absolutely fucking fantastic, and I feel absolutely blessed and privileged to have 3 amazing daughters. I will caveat that, I do. They come with their challenges, though, and the financial burden on having children is astronomical. I think they say that an average child in its lifetime in your lifetime of basically caring for it, will cost you in excess of £100,000. I think that's 100,000. Is it? Yeah, I'm sure it's about £100,000. Don't quote me on that, because I will find that out. But I think it was around. I think I might have watched an American thing that was like $100,000. So it might have been that, but which will probably be about £70,000-80,000. But that's still an astronomical amount of money. And when you actually look back, it can cost you that. Over 17, or over what? So let's say their lifespan's 20. Lifespan, fucking hell, James. Let's say the span of your commitment is to their 21. Yeah, and that's when they start earning a good amount of money. That 21 fucking years, 3 times over, that's a lot of money. So it is a massive financial burden. And that doesn't go away, and it gets worse. You know, it can go up and down. Like I said, you all know the journey I'm with my eldest daughter, and the absolute catastrophic fucking news that we had from her, and we're still fighting that now. But that's an expense I never accounted for. And that's £200 a month that I have to pay, that I've had to go out. So I do a second job. The reason I do a second job, and most people think, you know, what do you need to do a second job for? Because I pay £200 a month for therapy for her that the NHS won't support, or they will support through CAMS and all the other people, if you understand the system through the United Kingdom. If you're in America, you know, so whatever, or in a different country, it'll be a different system. But we have the NHS. But the NHS is so fucking so fundamentally under financed that we've been waiting almost a year to even look to going to court for this, because they're so understaffed that the woman that's taken our case on has just got cases coming out of her ears. So, and then we go to CAMS, and we've been to CAMS, and they're like, mate, it's 6 months to 6 to 8 months to even get an initiation, like a startup meeting. And I've gone, I can't wait 6 to 8 months to start some sort of therapy for her. So for the last 6 to 8 months, you know, you're paying £200 a month. That's an expense I never accounted for. It's an expense that I'll never ever question, but I've had to go out and get a second job to pay for that. Now I work every Sunday to pay for that. Now I would do that again. Not that I'd ever want to go through it again, but I would do it again if I had to. But that's just an expense I never encountered for, and it's not an expense that I can literally just, you know, it's not a disposable income I have. But I'll do whatever I can for my daughter. She would never know. She just gets it paid for. And then when she comes in and says to me, I don't think it's working, I go, fucking, it is, and we will make it work. You need to stick to it. You know, she's sort of it's difficult. Anyway, I'm not gonna digress into that. But that's life. Life chucks you curveballs, and the reason why I put the title is sometimes it's just life. Life is like that. Life is a fucking difficult roller coaster for everybody. Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a friendship, maybe it's maybe it's your children, maybe it's work. But if you're not doing your own individual steps to make things better, then don't expect change. Do not expect change. If you're not doing the right, if you're not getting out there and exercising, you're not doing what you need to do, you're not eating healthy, and you're not doing and drinking plenty of water, etc., hydrating yourself. I know men love saying that. If you drank some water, I had to reset myself there. Well, I don't know why I went into an American accent then. And but we do say that a lot. If you got a headache if you'd had enough water today, we do say that a lot. But I think that for me, life is fucking difficult. It is. It's not easy for anybody, especially we're in a cost of living crisis. You know, you see fucking media all over the place. There's fucking wars here. We're on the brink of World War III. We're on an energy crisis with the energy companies acknowledging that they're making astronomical profits. Literally, to me, that's theft. They've stolen my money. If they're making almost £1 billion in profit in the first quarter of their fucking financial year, you've got to say to yourself, that's modern day theft, mate. There's no difference between fucking you coming in and just stealing my money, because that's what you've done. So we go through these things, and then if you might have family problems, whatever it may be, but you need to look after yourself. You can't sit there and go, oh, the fucking world's on top of me, I'm fucking had enough. You can't do that. You really can't until you've looked at the right avenues and tried to do the right things. Try to get surrounded by the right people that are caring for you. Get the family members. Speak up. Speak out. That is the really important bit. Let people know you're struggling. In fact, I've got a great little story actually to tell you just about that. That's just literally resonated with me because so I always speak up about my mental health. Why? I think it's really important to acknowledge. I work in a high functioning organisation, and a couple of times I've mentioned that I do suffer from ADHD and PTSD. Does that affect me? It does affect me on a daily basis. Abso-fucking-lutely. Why do I mention that? Well, I think it's really important for people around me that are close working for me to let them know that I do struggle and there's reasons why. So I had a one-to-one with my boss who called the one-to-one on the back of my little fucking escapade that I had the other week where I threw my teddies out the cot firmly and went, this fucking organisation's a fucking shit state. I've got people that are paid 17, 18 grand a year more than me that don't know what day of the fucking week is. So, you need to sort your shit out. So I went to my boss and went, fucking sort this out. Called a one-to-one to me. And this is what he said to me. Had a one-to-one and he goes, James, why do you keep mentioning your mental health? What's the point of that? And I looked at him, bearing in mind he's got disabilities. And I said, I don't get what you mean. And he went, well, why do you mention it? I go, well, because, like, for instance, ADHD is huge. It's like it comes in so many different forms and has so many different connotations to it, and so many different. It affects me in different ways. And he went, what do you mean? I said, well, for instance, if you give me 2 projects with a similar deadline, and one project I don't want to do and one project I do want to do, I will do that one I want to do to the best of my ability and above and beyond. And I will make it incredible because I'm enjoying it and I want that process. And if that other process comes along, I will just leave it to the last minute because you've given me a deadline. And literally a day before that deadline, I'll give it to you and it'll be a shower of shit. And you'll look at both those projects and gone, why are they so different? One I was interested in, one I wasn't. I said, and that's my mental health. That's the truth of my mental. He goes, but you can't be seen to be like that. I said, why not? I said, I don't tell people the details of underlying, but I'm just trying to let people know that if you research my mental health problems that aren't going away, you'll understand me and how I work. If you don't want to do that and you just see it as me constantly mentioning my mental health, and I mean constantly in the loose terms because I don't. I've mentioned it twice in 2 years, so I don't understand why he said that. But that just goes to show, for me, I almost lost a little bit of respect for him there because I was like, I understand your disabilities. I think he's got Asperger's and he's got IBS. So I was like, I understand your low immune system. And I said this to him on the day. I was like, I understand your low immune system. I understand your reservations and anxiety about going into big rooms of people because you don't want to get infections and you don't want to hurt yourself, or make yourself feel ill because you don't know what the ramifications of that are. I understand all that. I said, but you see me mentioning my mental health as a negative in 2023. In the back of my mind, I said that. But that just goes to show, even this person who has a disability is mentioning, why do I mention my mental health? Almost like, stop mentioning it. That's what it felt like to me. Maybe I read that wrong. I don't know. But that's almost how it felt. Stop mentioning it, mate. Why do you need to mention it? Because PTSD affects me in massive ways. I might not get up one morning. I don't mean in a negative way, but I mean like I might just not want to get out of bed. Or I might come out to bed and be completely exhausted because I've not slept the night before. Because my ADHD has been fucking racing through my brain. Or I might get up in the morning and I might drive to a place and get there and be so frazzled from my PTSD because it was revolving around car crashes and being in a car that's completely changed my mindset and mood. I might not want to travel because I'm not in the mood to travel. I might be completely and utterly exhausted. Why do you think I don't work most Fridays? Because I'm so fucking exhausted from Monday to Thursday, from constantly performing and constantly going that Friday I'm fucking frazzled. I just want to do a couple of hours and shut off and sit down and relax because I do need that time. Or I could turn up on the Friday and just be a completely and not utterly obnoxious prick. But that goes to show, though, for me, that resonated in the fact that we're in 2023 where we're already, and I know that there's a world where people keep mentioning mental health and rah, 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 and I go, but these are things that aren't going away. I need you to understand that this is how I operate. Does it affect my work output? Absolutely not. I'll never let it show that it affects my work output. But I want you to acknowledge that it may be a day where I can't control it affecting my work output, and you'll acknowledge that. Or, like what's happened the last couple of months, over the last couple of months, I've had an acknowledgement in the sense that I don't feel I'm being supported by the organisation, and I'm using that as a broad spectrum, but I don't feel I'm being supported and managed properly, and that's affecting me. To the point where it's made me want to completely and utterly close down because I'm not getting support. Now that affects me, which is in turn affecting my output, which is in turn affecting my attitude. And then he turns around to me and said, well, James, I just want you to come into work, be happy, and, keep the team bubbling, keep the team, you've got this energy about you, James. And I go, yeah, that's great. I understand that. But if you don't do your fucking bit, and he doesn't do his bit, and she doesn't do her bit, or they, them, whatever, whoever they may be, don't do their bit, they're going to affect my mental health. And what's happened is, I'm telling you now that has acknowledged me. So that's now affected me. And it's got to the point where I've had to shut down completely and take a week off out of the blue. And that's what I've had to do for my own mental health. I shouldn't have to get to that point where I have to completely and utterly take a week off out of the blue to just reset. I should take a week off managed through going away with my family, friends, whatever it may be. So it's important, and that just goes to show that even in 2023, people are naive and still look at it as a negative. Why do you mention it? Why would I not mention it? You're my direct line. You're my next line manager. You need to understand what I'm going through, just like I need to understand what you're going through. I think I'm not chucking it in your face and asking you to adapt and overcome. I'm not asking you to change anything. I'm just asking you to acknowledge that there's things I go through, and you've got to a point now where you're having a one-to-one with me because of the frustrations that have been ignored for the last 6 to 7 months, and it's just got progressively worse. And people are getting paid to come in and do fuck all and go home. But you expect me to fucking carry on churning on. And that sounds like a bit of a rant, and it was a bit of a rant. But it just goes to show that people aren't, and this is an older generation, and their mindset is still in a negative place for me. So there you go. And, it's kind of, that's a long-winded chat away there, wasn't it? But you've got to do the right things for you. You've got to take those. And if you're doing those right things, if you're taking time out correctly, you're giving yourself the space you require. You're giving yourself that healthy mindset, healthy body. If you've still got issues there, then definitely 110% seek help. And I don't mean man up to the point where you just got to ignore it and man up. I mean, do the right things for you. Because sometimes life does just it's just difficult. Everybody experiences life's difficult. I've got friends of mine that have had difficult relationships that have affected them. I've got a very good friend. I've had friends of mine that have had difficult work environments that has affected them. I've had friends of mine that have had difficult family that have affected them. Everybody has had some sort of situation that could have affected them. The problem is, like I've said to you, and I beat the fucking drum about this, women have this ability to talk things through and open up. Men have this thing where they just procrastinate and they hold it in. And they go, fuck everybody, and now I'm just going to get angry, and I'm going to become this little ball of angriness, and I'm going to fuck you. As soon as I can fucking get a chance, I'm going to chuck you under the bus. I'm going to chuck you under the bus. I'm going to fucking kill you. I'm going to write a list, and this list is getting longer because I fucking hate you. And I fucking hate you. That's what we do. That's what we do. We just get bitter. And that's why we become cantankerous old bastards. Because if you go along and you see the happiness in people, the people that have the ability to switch off is fucking great. I love that ability. But I don't. But if you don't give yourself that chance to spend time with family, I mention my friends all the time, but I have a friend of mine that gets it right. And he just says to me, James, doesn't matter. I was in a bit of a shit place. So he's like, mate, it does not matter, mate. You do what you can in the day you have. But ultimately, your life is your family and your friends, or your family always number one. And then your friends and having a good time in life, mate. That's the priority there, buddy. Because if you die in a year's time, what are you going to look back and go, oh, well, you did your job really well, mate, and you made the asbestos management plans get signed. Yay! No one fucking cares, mate. It's not your fucking job. Just move on and just make sure that you shut that laptop in time, shut it down, and fucking go and spend some time with your family. Cook good food. Invite people around. He said you've got a fucking great garden space that you've built over the last 2 years to have people around. Have people around and enjoy your space with them. And I think that's a really important place, you know. And I'm going to finish there, actually. So, like I say, my apologies for not talking yesterday on my Sunday reflection. Unfortunately, I was working yesterday, that's part of the reason why I wanted to try and address, because I do work on Sundays. And I got home and I was fucking exhausted because I was still in my shutdown mode. And, I was a bit exhausted, so I slept, and then I cooked dinner, and I just wanted to go to fucking bed. I didn't have a chance to do it. So today I knew I'd have a really good fucking chilled out day, done a bit of DIY, listened to a bit of music, watched a really good movie. And I was like, yeah, now's the time, baby. Now's the time. Jump on. Get the tunes are flowing. Let's get going. I'm going to have a sip before I finish up and wrap up for you. But, so yeah, it wasn't really a negative podcast. I was trying to be as positive as I can, but I'm just trying to get out there, that, you've got to do the right things for you. And that means getting the things right down the bottom baseline right. And I always say this, and I harp on about this, and the fucking drum gets beaten weekly about fucking talking to the right people and surrounding yourself by the right people. It's so, so important. If you're doing the right things, I wonder where my music had gone there. If you're doing the right things and you're still in a negative space and you've done all this stuff that I've spoken about, you've got the right people around you, you're keeping yourself positive, you're surrounding yourself with as much positivity as possible, you're eating good food, you're drinking plenty of water, you're getting exercise. If you're doing all of those things on a regular basis and you're still feeling shit and there's something still niggling away, and then seek medical advice, get that medical help. But make sure you do those things first. Because if you go to a therapist, and I've been to my therapist, and my therapist said to me, what are you doing with your life, James? And I was like, well, not really a lot, mate. I'm just fucking drinking a lot, and, I just fucking party hard, and I go out a lot, and I'm like, don't really spend much time with my family. And they're like, well, that's pretty much a problem there, buddy. You're not doing the right fucking things. And I was like, yeah, okay then. Yeah, fair enough. And I did the right things. And did it help me? No, it transpired that the medical help and the 38 therapy sessions and the 16 therapy sessions I've had this year alone have all acknowledged that this is just this is, like I said, what came out of all those therapy sessions was ADHD and permanent PTSD. So I knew I was going to be on medication for the rest of my life. I know I'm on antidepressants because of the permanent PTSD. They're like, you're not going to get away. We've done everything. We've been to CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. I've had 3 or 4 different therapists. I've done EMDR. I've done acupuncture. I've done everything I possibly can. And it came out after all of that. The conclusion was, no, mate, you're going to be, you've got a mental illness through ADHD, and the PTSD is permanent, mate. It's not going away. You can't, your brain won't allow you to process it. But I did the right things first. So now my whole process and my whole journey of this whole podcast is to explain that we've got to keep going. You've got to keep trying. You've got to keep the positivity, because life is shit sometimes. And it is. If you've got children, it will be shit until, I say shit, it's not. It's amazing. But at the same time, it is very tough until it gets to the point where they're not so much of a financial burden, I suppose. They're not a burden in themselves. They are. Children are incredible. They're impeccable. And anybody that has the chance to have them, is an absolute accolade to, is a positive, an absolute positive, because there is people out there that don't have the ability to have children. So you don't waste that time. Please don't waste that time. But at the same time, do the right things along that journey to make things work for you, because it will be tough. But there will be a time. I know my dad. I spoke to my dad a little while ago, and he said, "Son, you were fucking hard work." And as we now know, it was undiagnosed ADHD because they didn't have that in the fucking 80s. The diagnosis aspect for it, or even an understanding of it. He said, "But I've seen such a change in you in the last 2 years." He said, "You're so much more energetic, positive." I said, "I can see you have your down days, but you manage it more effectively. You don't try not to let things go on too long, so you get really angry and really frustrated." He said the only time he acknowledged, he said, "The only time I've noticed that you didn't do that was the last couple of months." He said, and we had a long conversation. He said, "I've actively noticed you've disengaged from us." He said, "You used to talk to us weekly. You used to come over every Friday and have a beer with us and a chat." And he said, "You just stopped all of that." I said, "Well, believe it or not, I've not just stopped that. I've stopped video messaging friends. I've stopped talking to friends on a daily basis." I said, "I've just shut down, mate." And he went, "Why?" I said, "I don't know. The frustrations of work." He said, "But you've let work overtake you and remove everything that was positive for you. Everything that was positive was seeing people, having fun, everything you can try and do, video messages, because I do struggle with going out a bit." He said, "But all of those things were really big positives, and you were making our lives better because of your positivity." He said, "But I can see you've let that go." And he said to me, "I'm really happy that you've taken this time away." So yeah, that's the positives from that. I'm going to leave something for you, actually. I'm going to try and find it if I can, actually, because just before, because this came through the other day, and I thought it was really important to acknowledge. So I've got a few old friends, and am I going to say this? No, I'm not going to say that, actually. Why? Because I think it might be negative. It might ruin everything that I'm trying to say in this one. It's a bit of a negative note. I'll save it for the next one, because I can start the negativity and pull it into a bit of a positivity. Little cliffhanger there for you. I didn't do that on purpose. I genuinely did that by accident. I was going to tell you, and I thought, no, I don't want to finish on a negative note. I want to start and then unpick that negative note. And it's about friendship. And I think the next podcast will be about friendship, I think. That was me rewinding. And I think that for me, there's a note that I read. I'm going to save it. I've saved it. I'm going to read that note and then try and let it resonate with you with regards to friendships. I've been let down quite a bit by friendships over my time, and more recently, actually, let down heavily by a particular friend of mine. And I think that's why it resonated quite heavily with me, because it's amazing where friendships, you can let people into your life, and unfortunately they can take advantage of you for their own prosperity, and almost fucking cast you aside once they've got what they needed from you. And you'll never stop that, I don't think. But at the same time, I think it's really important, to acknowledge that and to find a way to process that, because it can hurt. It really can hurt, especially for the likes of me, because I do put a lot of value into my friends. I have a small friendship circle, and a few of the people that have been in my friendship circle they've kind of been quite negative in the outcome of it, and it takes me a while to get over that. It really does. And I think that's why this little note that I read the other day, I was like, That resonates quite heavily with me. So I'm going to talk about that as friendship on the next one. I think it's really important to unpick that and how we deal with that, how we manage these negative situations, because there's nothing out there that can tell you. I can only tell you from my experience and how I manage it. But it's hard work. It's a long journey to undo the negatives of a friendship, and even worse if it's a relationship that's been down that route. So thank you for listening. I really, really, really appreciate your time, and thank you for listening for all around the world. I know that this relies heavily on consistency for the importance of people listening. However, it's hard for me to be too consistent because I do get a bit bored of it and I go, am I being a bit boring? Am I just going on and on a bit like I am now? So I try to give little cliffhangers here to try and keep me interested and keep you interested. So thanks for listening. Take care of yourself and maybe have a little reflection time for yourself. Have a good one. Take care. I love you all and I'll speak to you soon.